Hello, welcome back to I Got Board Game. Ben here with another unboxing for you today. And today I will be unboxing Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. This is actually a relatively heavy game. I mean, physically, the weight wise, and it's like very thick as you can see compared to my hand. Yeah, really beefy game here. But it is actually a smaller, more condensed version of the original game called just Gloomhaven. And Gloomhaven is very well known in the board game industry as a very heavy RPG into a board game format kind of game. And it's currently #1 board game of all time on Board Game Geek. I think it's held that position for maybe at least a year now. And then Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion was released just earlier this year in 2020, I think maybe around June. So not that long, but this game has already risen up to number 25 of all time on Board Game Geek, which is pretty crazy. And ratings wise, it has 4,000 ratings by backers, and the average is a 9 right now, which is ridiculous. Like, the ratings of 9, like up to 9, is so rare on Board Game Geek, and to have such a solid amount of ratings for it, like 4,000, that really does mean that 9 is a really solid 9. So people are really liking this. I haven't played the original Gloomhaven, and obviously I haven't played this. It's still in its shrink wrap, but I am definitely interested in trying it out. Like I mentioned, it is an RPG, a role-playing game in a fantasy world that is actually an original fantasy world, so it doesn't follow all the traditional tropes of like elves and orcs, but the creator actually, for Gloomhaven, made up a lot of his own races of characters and its own world. So that might have been part of the appeal. It's like this whole new kind of fantasy being presented. And then Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion kind of condenses Gloomhaven, which has a lot of components, a much bigger box. That game retails for like, I think between $100 to $150. So it's a really beefy game. This more kind of condensed version with, you know, kind of a few set characters you can start with and play through the story, the campaign. This retails for $50. I got it when it dropped very low on Amazon, around $40. So I wanted to grab it and hopefully get to try out what all the buzz is about Gloomhaven. And so I'm gonna try to unbox this and not take too long unboxing everything, because I'm guessing there's a lot of small components in this box, a lot of separate decks of cards, and even boxes of maybe characters, items, equipment that you aren't supposed to open until you get there in the story. So in that way, there are these surprises while you're playing the game as the story unfolds. So with all that said, let me open this right now. So Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion is for 1 to 4 players, and it's a cooperative fantasy game. In being a role-playing game turned into a board game, it does have its own kind of board game mechanics that are kind of unique to it, that maybe you'll get to see some of it while I'm unboxing. Basically, different kinds of components for tracking your character's stats, for tracking like the enemy or monsters' stats, and even each character uses their own like deck of cards, which is unique to them. So maybe you'll see that. So let's get to looking inside. So welcome to Gloomhaven. I think this is kind of, there you go. Probably something to help us get a sense of what components there are. And so I'll have to look through this later and make sure everything's here. There is a watch it played video you can scan. So that's a way you can just watch the YouTube video by Watch It Played, Rodney Smith, to learn how the game plays. And yeah, so there's all these components in here, like tuck boxes, I think maybe for storing your characters, so you can kind of save the game and put it away instead of leaving it sprawled out on your game table or whatever table you're on. Different dials for, I think, tracking maybe life and maybe magic. You have attack modifier deck, plastic standees. This game does have a couple miniatures I think we'll get to see that are the characters. So you'll just be using those to indicate your characters moving around. And then you have the learn to play guide, which is quite chunky. There's quite a lot in this game. But it does seem helpful that there's all these little reference numbers in pictures for setup or learning different parts of cards and the components. You have a glossary, which is also quite thick here. But this is maybe to go over different rules in the game, a way to quickly look up what certain maybe status effects or tokens do or what they mean. So yeah, just a glossary of terms, components, mechanics in the game. You have a supplemental scenario book, which is cool because I think I saw in the back of the box it says there are 2 scenario books and a total of 25 scenarios that you can play through. And so I'm guessing there is, like any RPG role-playing game, there's this ongoing story campaign that you're playing through, but you can also maybe choose to play specific ones. I don't want to necessarily show what's in this one. Let me pull out the other scenario book, which is slightly thicker, so maybe the majority of the missions are in here. But then the interesting thing about how Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion is done, I don't know if original Gloomhaven does this, but you open the scenario book and it'll have like an introduction here and special rules, the conclusion of, I think maybe what you do or learn about or story points after you finish this level. But then this part of the scenario book is actually the board you actually get to play on. So you'll see these are hexes, right, spaces for you to put your characters on. And so this is one of those games, and there's a few that I can think of by Plaid Hat Games, who might have been the early ones to design kind of boards, game boards like this, by using the rule book or scenario book itself as the game board. So yeah, you can see there's these different scenarios. And yeah, all different game boards that you're traveling along. This is a dark fantasy game, if I did not mention that earlier. So there's, you know, more mature stuff, or basically blood here and stuff like that. So just be aware, it's not like a kid's fantasy game. Those Plaid Hat games would probably be better suited if you're interested in those games. And so then we have location stickers. So there might be a legacy element to this game. Basically, that means it's a game where you'll modify your copy of the game as you play, where you'll basically kind of permanently attach these stickers to indicate locations maybe you've come across or that you've established. So yeah, this is a sticker sheet for that. And then you have, a lot of punch sheets of tokens for all different kinds of things in the game. I think these are even like the standees for the monsters. You can see all the monsters, and actually this might be a main character that you could choose to play as. But yeah, otherwise it's standees for these monsters, villains, enemies. Same one here. And so as you can see, like I mentioned before, these fantasy characters they don't look exactly like what you might be familiar with, like elves, dwarves, and those kind of things. They're all slightly different. They're all named different things too. I don't know the actual names of these races that the designer came up with, but that is something that is unique to Gloomhaven. And there is this board, which is, I guess, a board of Gloomhaven, which is this city, I believe. City or world, I'm guessing it's the city name. So this probably serves a purpose, and this might be even where we stick the stickers. And then, as I mentioned, there were these tuck boxes, which are pretty like nice, beefy, solid. So it's packed with this character's stuff already, probably including all of their decks, their own player board. Actually, should I just open one? Which one looks cool? So yeah, there's 4 characters to choose from because it plays up to 4 players. I know one of them is called Hatchet. So let's look at Hatchet, shall we? So you open it up. I'm pretty sure this will be part of like setting up the game when you choose your character. So yes, as you can see, there's this deck of cards for Hatchet, but this says halt. And do not open this until the character reaches level 5. So I think there's this kind of level up system like in any RPG game, but this is the way they do it in this board game format, where separate deck of cards that you don't get to look at or add or use until you level up your character. And then I think this is probably his starting deck of cards, which includes like a player reference on the back and all his probably equipment or action cards in there. Let's see what else. Oops. You have another deck of cards, I think attack modifier cards, I think that's what that symbol is, that also might become available at certain points. The regular attack modifier deck that you'll start with, and your character's board. So this is, let me see if I can show this well. Yeah, Hatchet, it looks like that. Makes me think of some kind of demon hunter race. But that's pretty cool. And just like a plastic board. The character's background. The race is called the Enox or Inox. Yeah, Inox Hatchet. And I guess he has these tokens that you'll punch out to use for something. And it has these player sheets for the character, which I think maybe that means you could play through the game multiple times with this starting character, but obviously you level up, choose different upgrades each time you play, so they become different characters, and you'll mark it on here. This is actually just like sheets of paper of the characters. So you have a handful of sheets that for playing through as this character. So yeah, that's what's inside one of the character tuck boxes. And then you have these dials I had mentioned, probably for tracking health and mana or such in the game, that you just rotate on the side here. You have the storage tray for, I'm guessing all those, or a lot of the small punch out tokens that, to keep track of different stats or just damage, or I don't know, different little characteristics that you need to track and have tokens for. It comes with this plastic tray. You could probably store it all in, which is very nice. I always like good storage solutions. Standees for those monster punch outs I showed earlier. And this is, I think, enemy action cards. So this is boss on the back, and this is quite a lot of them. So it says like, this one's like screaming shot. And so it's like an attack, has different stats on it. So this is probably relating to the enemy and how they fight you. Different markers for encounter events. monster attack modifiers. But I think one of the unique mechanics of the game is relating to these components, which are these kind of little envelopes with numbers on the side inside here. And when you fight these monsters, which are on these square-sized cards, stack of monsters, you'll actually slide them into this sleeve, depending maybe on either the difficulty you're playing or number of players, and it'll show just part of the card, meaning that's like the stats of what you're actually fighting. So that's an interesting way to go about that, a unique way to Gloomhaven, I believe. Other stacks of cards, I think this is relating to more like the city, so maybe like more story related deck of cards. Seems like a deck of skill cards, like, right? This says acrobat. So, or maybe like trait cards for characters. So a pack of those. Again, attack modifier cards. These look like a whole deck of equipment. Yeah, back of the card. So equipment cards that you could probably get in some way, buy, find through fighting for your characters. And then a whole roll of plastic baggies, which is nice to have for free. I'm assuming then that there is a purpose, and a lot of tokens will also need to be stored in these. And then lastly, what I mentioned are these little boxes here. So they have the character symbol on them. You might have saw earlier on those tuck boxes or tuck packets, the one that I opened Hatchet for. So I think this is probably his miniature. Let me hopefully open it and not spoil anything. I'm assuming the miniature is immediately available if you're playing that character. It's not some other thing you need to unlock. So let me carefully open this. Ooh, okay. So there you go. The miniature for the Inox Hatchet. Let me see if I can show it a little better. Will my camera focus? Yeah, pretty cool little sculpt, good detail on it. But then aside from these character miniatures that are here, there are these boxes which have this seal on it. It's just a sticker seal. And I'm assuming this is actually something that's a spoiler that you don't open until the game tells you to. Feels like some kind of miniature, so maybe another character you unlock. That's cool. That'd be really cool. But yeah, there's a few of those that are sealed, not opened yet, and not supposed to be open. Don't want to spoil anything. And so anyways, that was an unboxing of Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion. Like I said, it is a heavier game, an RPG into board game form, but it is massively popular right now in the board gaming community, highly rated. So if you find it interesting, I would definitely suggest looking into it yourself, maybe even watching the Watch It Play video to see if it plays in an interesting way, in a way that you would want to try out. And so thank you for watching, and until next time, I will see you then. Bye.